lives are great. Something I never heard my radio say. Black lives are precious, black lives are great. Something I never see my TV say. But since I know you never heard it,
debate, right?
Yeah.
So the debate is coming from the claim from Donald Trump last year
Yeah.
and brought in the election, this and that. Um, and so a lot of Republicans have been taking initiative to make stricter voting laws as far as ID and more how the Democrats look at it is more hurdles and obstacles to get through the process, right? Um, Now the
Yeah.
Democrats are trying to control the voting more at a federal level because they see a lot of
Yeah.
Republicans are doing that. Now there
Yeah.
is supposed to be a separation between state and federal, but they do have power. Now let's keep it real. Before we dive into the debate, let's keep it real and be independent. Republicans, when you look at the statistics and facts, their demographics will go through these hurdles more than a Democratic person would, just off demographics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're just strictly not about election fraud, not about any of it. They want to get claim to power. Democrats obviously want to loosen up a little more because they could get more people in because their demographics do this. Let's
Yeah.
keep it real and understand both sides. We cannot stop taking a side because none of these sides care about you. They're just claiming to power. Now, if we
Right.
dive into it, let's talk about these voting laws and what's happening, right? Because I've had some debates with that, and they're like, "Oh, you don't need a photo ID in this state and that state." In California and New York stood out to me, one because I live in New York. I
Yeah.
started doing some research on California. Now, I believe you should have a photo ID to vote, right? Now,
Oh, okay.
I'm looking at they're saying, "Hey, states, you don't need ID, you can just vote." Da, da, da. It sounded bananas to me. So I know a lot of people just following this, like, oh, that's wrong. Anyone can vote. Undocumented people can vote. This and that. So I'm like, wait a minute. That sounds weird. Let's do some research and see what's going on. Now, before I get
Right.
to the research of California, New York, my wife, right, we moved to a location about 2 years ago, a different county in New York, a different part of New York.
Right.
Now, she could not vote, even though we've been here, because they said you're not registered for this county.
Oh my God.
So she wasn't even able to vote because of this and that. So I think that anyone thinking that you can just vote and it's not tight, what I encourage you to do, and please tag us, is
Yeah.
go to some place that you're not registered to vote, try to vote,
Yeah.
put it on YouTube and expose it. And I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure, now I'm not even going to say what the conclusion would be, but try to do that because there is no system where you can just vote a bunch of times. You can just walk in and this and that. Now, New York and California, if you're not a first time voter, they're not requiring photo ID at the booth, but you have to show some type of identification that this is who you are. You sign the signature. Boom, that's it for your name. That's it.
So
Now
maybe
there
like
are
a
cities where,
passport.
yeah, they're like passport, driver's license, whatever, utility bills, and then you mix things. Like New York has a point system, but they're like, oh, you can show your utility bill and you can your social security card and you can get that. So immediately, you know what I said? You know
Hmm.
that's what you give in to get an ID, right? So you're upset. The things that you use to get an ID is what they're directly taking at the voting booth. That you can't vote double. And if you can, instead of following what the mainstream news is saying because they all have agendas, I encourage you to expose
Yeah.
it. We will promote it because it should be
Yeah.
fair voting. So if you can vote more than
Yeah. Absolutely.
and you can go to a place like there was a whole list of states that they were saying California and New York stood out to me. Come to New York and California and try to vote. Don't be a resident here. Try to vote. See how easy it is.
I'm about to pull up to like 4 different states and get four or five votes on my G.
like, like we have to be smart about this. And yes, now I wouldn't mind if you have to show a photo of you at the voting booth. But if they take a utility bill and your social security card and you're signing a signature so you can't vote again, let's be smart enough to realize, hey guys, that's what you use to get a photo ID.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Please stop
Yeah. It's
promoting
ludicrous.
narrative.
Yeah. It's ludicrous. Stop listening to uh you know the news. both sides, they just have this habit of pushing a narrative, and people have a habit of just following the narrative instead of asking themselves, does this make sense? You know how you like to ask people a question?
Yes.
Like, you don't give them a direct answer, you just ask them a question,
Yes.
and then you just defeat them like that.
Mhm.
Defeat the narrative that these news medias are pushing with a question. Does this make sense? Let me go do my research. That's another thing people don't do. People don't do their research.
They don't. And we're
You
in
know,
the age of Google, and right now, social media and Google are starting to put more restrictions on the search. But while it's still open, there's not enough restriction where you can't find out the information. Let's put it like that.
absolutely,
We live in a world, a land of information. Why are you going to one source and just going gun home? Because people get so passionate. They go to their one source, they get passionate. Listen, if you follow Love First podcast, please look up what we're saying and
yeah.
present us with counter stuff so we can grow. I'm down to grow. You know what I'm saying? But do the research.
And
All of these people have PRs. All these people do marketing. They're
right,
not coming in there
right,
just saying what they think. They have a team
right,
that's like,
exactly,
hey, present it like this.
exactly.
They don't
And if
love you.
and if you don't follow the PR, the PR person gonna be looking at you like, yeah, we didn't tell you to say that.
Facts.
And if you are gonna look at either Fox News or CNN, watch both of them, bro. And then look at the stupidity that comes from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? There's a stupidity on both sides, bro. And it's all to have you thinking a certain way, especially with Fox News, man. They be wilding.
And we do have a lot of Fox News supporters, so I do want to see one bias, but sometimes Fox News be extra wilding because they'll like both sides will be wilding. You know what I mean? I don't want to put it on one side. Sometimes I get a little more frustrated because Fox News gets a little more blatant with it, but I do get good information from Fox News sometimes, and good information from CNN sometimes. The horrible information from them a lot more times. Both
Yeah.
and I have to continuously do research to get to the truth. It's like this person's all the way here, this person's here. Listen, we don't have to be all the way over there. We need to be in the middle. And right now, both sides are capitalizing off you because you don't think for yourself.
Because you're the viewer.
You don't think for yourself.
Because you're the viewer, and they're trying to get you to stay on that channel for as long as possible. It's all about viewership and time. They are trying to get you to stay on that channel for as long as possible. And then they're trying to get you to accept the narrative that they're pushing. And not for you to have your own way of thinking.
If these senators and all these people are genuine, put term limits on yourself and everyone else. Let's do that. We need time for change. Right now, everyone's a little too comfortable. They go in him. And it does get upsetting when I hear these people like voter fraud has been existing for years and years and years. I'm like, bro, you've been senator for years and years and years. Why are you just this is happening on your watch?
Are you bringing it up now?
So my thing, and I hate to talk about this because there's like such mixed reaction, but it has to be said. So I find it very weird when you talk about voter fraud. When President Donald Trump didn't win the popular election, and all the intelligence agencies said Russia had to make this happen. Mm-hmm. There was no stampede of the Capitol and all of this running around and this and election fraud to the max. But when this happens and there's no real strong proof or intelligence agency saying that another country hacked it, we're talking about all this voter fraud, but it wasn't this push when your person was in. It's different. Just like a pipeline just got hacked, was messing with gas prices on the East Coast. They're saying it's Russia. The Republicans are pushing hard on this. We need to get back at them, and we need to stand tall. And the administration's not doing enough. But the intelligence agency said that they messed with our presidential election, 2006. Yeah. So just be consistent. I'm not saying what happened or what did it. I'm not with that at all. But what I am saying is the lack of consistency shows you where everyone's part is at. Be an independent. Right. I agree with Republicans on certain points. I agree with Democrats on certain points. I disagree with both on a few. Challenge them. If they represent you, challenge them.
Ain't nobody want to challenge Donald Trump. All the Republicans want to be on his side, but nobody want to ask him a question and challenge him.
They just fired the GOP leader because she challenged them.
You see what happens when you challenge him?
What up, everyone? If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that notification bell for the latest podcasts, music videos, and comedy skits. We got a lot more content coming your way.
We here all day, baby.
Yeah.
Subscribe to the channel, baby.
Yeah, we gotta show love first like a podcast.